Welcome back to part 2 of Mary's story. So in part 1, we left off where her husband is in Nairobi and Mary needs to join him somehow. So how did you find each other? How did you join him?
I went by train.
You went by train?
Yeah. So I was carrying potatoes, and so when these people were sort of, and at that time I understand Tororo, when you get to Tororo, there's almost such you and
Almost undress you.
Yeah.
Mm.
So I prayed all the way to Tororo.
Mm-hmm.
Because every station we stopped to, then people will say, wait until you get to Tororo. So I prayed. I was praying. Then when I went to Tororo, then they said, don't get out of the train. None of us got out of the train to be searched, and we went. So when I crossed the border, I said, God, thank you. Yeah. So that is, and then when I went to, I just went with my suitcase, and I was carrying the other things I was carrying for my friend, per family. Food mostly, because I didn't want it to look suspicious. So they would ask me, what are you going to do in Kenya? I said, I go to visit my sister. I even had a photo. So I said, I'm going to visit my sister. So when we reached Nairobi, these people housed us for 4 months in their home when we were looking for jobs. Then I got a job in a legal firm, because this guy said he wanted an assistant. He was an Indian. So then later on, I worked for him for, I think, I didn't even work. Of course, I was not going to court. Then he said that these people in Nairobi decided not to register Ugandan lawyers, except lawyers from the border who attempted, they were Kenyans. Yeah, yes, but they refused to press this, so he couldn't now keep me there. So I paid away for 2 months, and then I went back, but my husband was trying to get jobs. Then, when he did some interview, he got a job with the population, I think population control center or something like that. So now we thought that the more my husband asked about the job, he said, initially we are going to send you to Washington for 2 years. And then when he learned that I was a lawyer, he says I could even go and do some, go to university there, do some course and all that. So that's before we even accepted the job. He accepted it, but then he wanted to know more. But he didn't start work. So the more we probed, then eventually he said, even sometimes you will have to open abortion clinics. Now that poses us some problem. So I told him, and I said, you said that we are trying to pray for a baby, and then there's this population control say, and he said, my husband will come back and be in charge of East and Central Africa and that kind of thing. And he was offering, the more we hesitated, the more money he offered. So he said, can't accept this. So we told him that we can't take that job. So the next week, then somebody offered my husband a job.
Wow.
I said, good, it's great.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. So it was the job to do with the consultancy. The consultancy, Ashipir consultant. And it was to do with human resource. So my husband joined them, and he liked the job very much. So he worked there until we came back to Uganda in 1981.
Yeah. So you were away almost 10 years.
My children were born in Kenya.
Yes.
So in the process, I was working for Kenya Institute of Administration and I was lecturing in the social social department. I think social development department, and then I also was training accountants and social workers, and it also helped me a lot. Then I also became a, a an examiner in the CASNEG, Kenya's Association of Secretaries and Accountants. So I would do that. That would bring me some money, good money. Yeah, I just was an examiner. I would set examinations for the accountants and for secretaries. Yeah, professional secretaries. So it helps us. By the time I got my children, at least I was part-time, being part-time. They were being an examiner in the Catholic. And then I was also working in the Kenya Institute of Administration in Kabete. It was about 8 miles from Kampala, from Nairobi. So first of all, I remember about when we got our flats, Delamere flats, 2 bedrooms. Apparently, it was a very tough time, and my friends were really very good to me. Somebody would pass with the food. That is before my husband. I got a job. Because when this Indian found out that I was not going to be registered, he did this, he laid me off. So it was now my husband who was working. Then we had a vehicle here. And we got a vehicle on hire purchase, thinking that my husband's relative would sell the car and he was in the planning and pay off. So what they did was, the person who sold the car and bought the car for herself. So they did send us even a penny. So now, when we paid our rents and the electricity and all that, we remained with the 300 Kenya shillings. So it was Delamere flat was all in here where my husband was working. So what I would walk from there to my husband, then we would have a cup of tea together. And then I would go back and cook supper. But this supper was, somebody brought us all saying that the fries were very crucial at that time. Somebody brought us a half a bag of white beans, these small beans. So I can still smell that beans. We used to get those beans every. And yes, oh dear. Because can you imagine 300 shillings now? Yes. So we were so, so poor. Now we said, because he were now paying for the car, which we would not have paid for if the money was sent to us. And, we really suffered for that time. And thank God I didn't have children then. So we just wait and we go and eat that beans 7 times a week, yes, until it got finished. I'm telling you, I can smell it now. So, that beans and portion, it was a lifestyle blind for us. So, so then you come back in. When I got a job now in Kabete, then I worked there as a lecturer, and they didn't process my work until 3 months afterwards. But they gave me a house in Pakla. So the first thing then when I got my money was to buy it. In this Parkland house, we were sleeping on the floor, and thank God it was, the next house, the next room to the sitting room, and in the sitting room there was a fireplace. So when it was very cold, and my friends gave me some curtains for the sitting room, but in the bedroom, you just put cardboards on the windows. You put cardboards on the window. Until 3 months after that, the first thing I bought was curtains. Because there was no privacy.
Yes.
Yeah. So then at least it eased our financial situation when I got a job. So, but we were really broke.
Yes, that's right.
So you couldn't even sell the car because it was on hire purchase.
No, yes.
So we just had to live on that 300 shillings. And my friend, the one whom we used to share a house, the new Sundays, they are the one they used to call us almost every Sunday. We would go there, and that's when we ought meat and good food.
And rested from the white beans.
Yes. And so when we were there, so we moved into a better house. And then God blessed us. We got it with Samuel there. And when Samuel was 2 years, then I had Richard. Richard was 6 months when we got back here. And when you got back here, there was a time when you queue for milk. There was no sugar. So, in fact, Samuel, who was, when the first time he had porridge, there was no sugar. Then he said, but this is not porridge.
Yeah.
So we really suffered. But the only thing was that my father-in-law had died and left a lot of cows. So we started selling the cows, and that's how we established ourselves. And this room or this house was rented by my sister-in-law. We paid to put a relative, the relatives of my husband. And when we came back, she never, ever even accounted for 1 shilling. It was as if, she was about to sell the house at them.
Wow.
So I told my husband that if she sells that house, I'm going to because you. Even when I was expecting you summer, because it is now 10 years without a child, then I told my husband that the moment I come back from hospital, if I lose this child, I'm just going to pack and leave you because you'll be patient with me for a long time. So I want you to have children, and I have no ill will to you, but I'm grateful that you just waited for those. So I can't ask you to wait for me. I mean, not even have a child. So when we were having somewhere, when I was expecting, there was a lot of tension. But thank God, he came, and we sort of stabilized. So he came in a good time, and it was really a miracle for me, I think. Because when I knew I was pregnant, I even told God, I said, I'm going to leave him if I miscarry this child. And I was saying, you will understand. Yeah. Because I loved him and he was so faithful to me, I couldn't say sort of hold him to him. Yeah. Wow. So, and I told God that I'm not going to receive any medicine now, because I used to be put on when I was pregnant, they would put me on some hormones and whatnot, and still I would miscarry. So I just said in my mind that I'm not going to receive anything, and I told God that. Then I started worrying now what my doctor would say. I started praying about it. So when I went to my doctor, he says, no, I'm not going to put you on anything. You can miscarry naturally. Isn't he telling you that? So it worked out. Prayer is very powerful. So that is how it came today.
Yeah.
So when I come back, people couldn't believe. They said that they were not my children because my uterus has been removed and all that. Yeah, I really had some very, very bad challenges with my health. Then in 1988, I had a kidney removed. One of my kidneys was removed. And then after that, she was as if that was not enough. I lost the use of my right leg. So whereas the people were taking me to physiotherapy and all that, and then I had some girl, a lady who was here, she would be just work on my feet and she would diagnose what is the matter with you.
I understand what you mean. Yes.
So she would touch my especially my left leg, and she said, "But you have got some problems with your eyes." I said, "Yeah, I know. I'm going to buy new glasses." So now it is I went to Britain because I also had another problem with my bladder. So I used to go to Britain almost every 6 months. So I went to Britain with my husband. Now that time I'd lost my this leg. Now when I went there, this guy is delayed with me. And then he told me, "Do you know you are blind in the right eye?" I said, "No." He said, "Okay, you put your hand like this and see whether you can see." So I blocked my eye and I found I couldn't see. Oh, wow. And I blocked this one and I couldn't see. So he was, he told me there's nothing wrong with your eye as such, but there's something oppressing it. So he gave me new glasses, but he told me, you go and see, he referred me to another doctor. And then I was going to be in because my brother-in-law was the professor psychiatrist in London, in the Gulu. That is, so he said, I went there, I said, "No, I'm not staying in London." I told the doctor, "But I'm going to Gulu." So he referred me to somebody in Gulu. So they put me through MRI scan. It took a long time. She told us, you go and have some tea. So we went to the restaurant and had tea. Then we waited and waited and waited. Then we went back to her reception. Then she came. I was sitting out here. My husband was sitting there. My sister-in-law was sitting there. So he said, she knelt down, in fact. She knelt and said, "How did you come?" I said, "We came by train." He said, "You can't go back by train. We are looking for your doctor. Your doctor is in London. We are looking for him and we are not finding him. So you are going by ambulance." He said, "You can't allow you to go by train now because there is something in your spinal cord, and your spinal cord is very delicate and all that." So we looked at one another and then we said, "No." I said, "No, let us go the way we came." I insisted. So she said, she agreed. So we went back home. And she said she was going to send the results of the scan to my doctor. Now, at 5 o'clock in the morning, when my doctor calls me, they'll come here immediately. So I went, and then they said, "You have got a tumor in your pituitary gland and one on your neck. That's the one which is making you not walk. So that the one in the pituitary gland is sitting on is pressing on the gland in the optic nerve. That's why you are blind." So they had to do series of tests. And before and after, if you see the before, I was totally blind. So they decided that they will do the one on my neck first. And the doctor told me, oh, I did this, it's the routine for me. So he did it, and I immediately did it. My hand, my being became okay, became normal. I could walk, but my head was as if I was carrying something. So I couldn't even feed myself.
Wow.
So my husband was feeding me in the hospital.
Yeah.
And then, and you know what will happen was that I was now, when I was very happy, because he told me that because I wanted to come back to organize money from here to when when they found those tumors. And he told me by 2 weeks, you are also going to lose the use of your right
Hand.
leg.
Leg. Okay. So
We looked at one another. He said, I have to do an emergency. So I rang. I was about that time working for the commission, the electoral commission. So I rang these people and I told them how much money they wanted. So they sent me the money. And then they did the operation 8 hours. And at least then I regained the use of this leg. Now, the doctor told me I can only do them from the neck to the waist. Let me send you to what he called him, what this is a neurosurgeon. I had to go to another doctor. Now then this doctor told me, okay, I'm not going to open you up, but open up your brain, but I'm going to throw out this thing from your, they say this hole which is in the mouth. It goes to the nose and all that. So he tried that one. Now I remember that when I woke up from the anesthetist, I was telling my husband, now when we go home, we have to go and we have we are going to have a party, Thanksgiving, and what. But he was very cold. He didn't react. And I was wondering, why is he cold?
Mm-hmm.
So then he let the doctor to come and tell me that it was not successful. He said the thing was robbery because they were thinking it was semi-solid and they would be suck it out. But they said it was robbery. They sent it to 7 labs in Britain, and nobody could say what it was.
Wow.
They didn't know what it was. So now, this doctor had told me that out of 10 people I operate on, only 3 make it. So then he asked me, you still want me to operate? Because he said, now I have to open. If you see my hair,
This is a scar on my ears.
Yeah, there is something there. So now, if I go through, I do, and I cut a major nerve there, you might be vegetative. So I asked him, when will I know, when will you know that I'm vegetative? He said, I cannot tell until after the operation.
Wow.
Yeah. So he said, do you still want to go through the operation? I said, yes. Then he said, then go and disturb God.
Go and disturb God, indeed.
He told God to disturb him and there. Of course, when we went back, we couldn't pray. Instead of praying, we collapsed and started crying.
Yes.
And but we prayed. Everybody in the house was praying. Okay, well, I remember there was this minister, secretary, she had a small prayer book, and she gave it to us, and everybody would be looking for that book in the house, for us to pray. So then A lot of things happened on the way that, when they wanted to operate, then I had a cold. When they wanted to operate, that my blood pressure had gone up. So now I started thanking God. I said, God, I thank you for bringing me this far, but I surrendered to him. I said, you can take me, please don't make me vegetative, because it's going to be very difficult on my relatives. Because, when somebody now is vegetative, that it means you will just have to feed them, clean them, dress them, everything.
Permanent care.
So I said, instead of that, please stop. Yeah, I told him, please take me. And then, now being a Catholic, then of course I received the last rites and things like that.
Go on.
And then I told God, but I would have loved to see my son graduate. He had just joined the university. So I said I would have loved to see him graduate, but not my will, yours. So when they started the operation for about 9 hours, my husband was sitting there, and then these guys were coming. The hospital there was like a hotel sort of. So they would come and say, do you want some whiskey? Husband said no. And then they came and said, no, please go and eat something. But he just sat there, and it was more difficult on him because I didn't know what was happening. Yes. So then when I came to myself at night now, he was telling me that my doctor was coming almost every 5 minutes. He was there trying to do test. And then he told him that I think we are okay. So by the time he came and I woke up, he was very, very happy. Yeah. So anyway, I thanked God for that. And then I could see, I could see my eyes could see this one. So that is one of the major ones really that we went through. And we 3 months, we stayed there for 3 months. So, and it was also heavy. It was the first time our children went for Christmas without us and all that, and I did not know how it was going to affect them. One was in Bodo in the I think senior 4 or something, and my elder one had just started the university. It was very difficult on them. But I was thanking God because, I said, God, if you decide to take me, at least my husband is here. Nobody is going to ring him and tell him I'm dead. So he will take my body home. I just started doing thanks because I'd given up. So I started just thanking God for everything. I looked through my life and I thanked God for everything. So that was that, I surrendered to him completely. Yeah. So then I came back and I was okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Up to now.
Up to now.
Yeah.
That is a journey and a half. Oh my goodness.
And I think it took more toll on my husband than I.
So you were at the Electoral Commission at this time, and I was now, okay. So you went to the Electoral Commission when you were already a judge?
No, before.
Before?
When I became a judge after that. After I spent 4 years there, and I became a judge.
Can you tell us a bit about that? What was that experience like?
Being a judge, because for me, I did practice. I was teaching mostly in the Law Development Center. I was still teaching there because when I came back from Britain, from exile, that was in 1981. So I started working for Law Development Center in 1981. Now, this was 1996. And then 4 years after that, in 2000, then I became a judge. And then So I was in a bit rusty. I started, it was difficult, yes, and all that, yes. But then I got it, like I did not have so many cases so upset by the appellate courts. And then I was sent to Gulu at a very, very difficult time. I wanted to resign. Elva Halbert told me that, look, you have been fighting for women's equality here. Now, if you resign because it's going to be relevant, and the people are going not to take you seriously. So he went there and stayed with me for about 2 weeks. The first time I went to Gulu, and Gulu was bad. I don't think that I ever prayed in my life as I prayed in the Gulu.
Yes. When you say it was bad, what do you mean?
Because that was the time that coin was at its best. And
it was during the height of the LRA war.
Yeah. So that was since 2004, I think. So one day I remember I would spend two weeks in the Gulu and come back for weekend. And then I go back on Sunday. I would come by plane and then I go back. There was a day where we went and we go to a place called Bobby. Then somebody flagged me down. I was gone, right? And then somebody flagged me down and told me that there's fighting ahead. So we reversed and came back to a small trading center now, but that thing now is big. We came, so every car that came, we were about 50 cars came and stopped there. So I rang the chairman of the district and then just told me offhanded, oh yes, they fought yesterday and they said they would come back at 5 and we had arrived at 5. Arrived there at 5.
Yes.
And they fought. So then I think after that, it brought all these big thick cars with guns and whatnot. And so then we could come now. We went and that thing. And then I was staying in a house which was next to the Red. There was the Red Cross. And I remember having a ladder. It's saying that if the Koja, attacked my house, I would go up. So I could not sleep, but I barricaded myself with about 3 locks in my bedroom. And then in the morning, you see the children would wake me up at 5.
So you said your bedroom was fortified, was barricaded.
Yeah. And then, in fact, I was tempted to sleep with the sports shoes,
just to be ready.
Yes. But then I was so shocked when I was told that the first thing they remove is shoes.
Oh, yes.
So you can't run.
Yes.
And so I said, no, what will then? But I prayed and prayed. And then one day, now we couldn't even stay in the official house. So one day, my boss had in Dagoba house, they was the principal guy. I think the BBC was, there was a pirate, and the BBC was hearing it on. He was hearing it on BBC. So he rings me at night and he says, now because one of us was, we were 2, but because this guy came from West Nile, I think he wanted to develop to have his house finished in West Nile. So the jurisdiction included West Nile. So there's a court in the West Nile for the high court. So used to live there mostly. But when he came to Kampala, when he came to Gulu, he was an army man, in fact, before that. He was an army man, but in the what? A lawyer, but in
The legal department of the army. Okay.
So for him, he was comfortable. He was also staying, we were not staying in the official houses. So for him, he was senior than me, so should have stayed in the official house. But he couldn't, because it was outside
The town.
the town. So for him, he was just comfortable working, being there when people were fighting. So for me, now when the principal judge had this news on what about Guru now on BBC, then he rang me at night. He said, "You two can come back. You two can come back. Your things are bad," but we didn't go back. So for me, I would go to my office to court. From court by 4 o'clock, I would go to church, and then I go home. Yes, it was so heartbreaking. And when you hear the children pleading on radio, "Please don't take us, don't take us." It was really a very, very difficult time. Yeah, for me.
Wow.
And in fact, I think I developed a heart problem because I was always on tension.
Yes. Oh dear.
So I stayed in the Gulu for 2 years, and then I came back. Okay. But it was a difficult time. And even the priest that used to go there would sleep in the barracks.
That's how bad it was. Wow.
It was difficult.
So over all this arc of, and how long were you a judge?
Yes, I was not a judge.
Yes, for how many years?
For about 8 years.
About 8 years. And you retired as a judge. Okay.
I retired in 2008.
2008. Okay. So when you look at your whole journey of leadership, from being a head girl in Namagunga all the way to being a judge, what do you think are the 2 or 3 key leadership lessons you learned? I know that you told us as a head girl, you learned about yourself, you learned to self-introspect, you learned to be tolerant of people. But what other lessons did you learn as in your different spaces where you led?
I think I would think that the truth and honesty were my driving forces. I had to make moral judgment and try to act morally. You also have to be honest and tell the truth.
Yes.
And I think, because I remember when I was in Gulu, I think it was my training in Britain that made me interested also in people, as people. So sometimes I took time to ask people about their relationship. When people come before me, I would ask, are you of the same mother or father or whatever? And then I would go deeper into their social pattern, because it can give you a way of why people are doing what.
Yes.
So I would like, and that we should be doing that actually. There should be a social worker going to these people, the criminals' backgrounds, and getting what. And they were telling people, the lawyers will like it, but then the other people would say, my fellow judges were saying, "Why do you go to those legs? Just hear the evidence and take the facts and make your judgment." But it pays to find out the social setup you're something there for. And like one case I had in Gulu, this was a case of rape, where a brother-in-law raped his sister-in-law. And for some reason, the mother of his girl was very bitter about it. So when the case came to court, of course the man pleaded not guilty and all that. So before we started the case, the mother put up her hands and said, "Can you give us a chance of going back to in our social setup and settle this matter socially, and put them through the tests of the cultural thing?" So I said, "What does that involve?" And they said, if we should go and get the grass from where this girl was raped, burn it and ask the both of them to drink. Yeah, put it in water. Then they both with the drink. Then I says, "What happened?" He says, the person who is dying will die. So for me, I was curious. Yeah. So I asked the assessors. I said, "Is that true?" The assessors said yes. So I said, "Okay, I'll adjourn the case." I wanted to know what would happen. So I said, "I'll adjourn the case and let you go and do it." Yeah. So the man puts up his hand and says he will now plead guilty. Oh. So I saw the strength of our cultural beliefs, And so I was just wondering that can't we even study the cultural beliefs of people? Yes. And see whether we can get something out of it and marry it to the justice system. Yeah. So that's, I think, also why these days they insist that you should go for, make people talk, and if they can agree, then it be not to go to court. Yeah, you just come to court to register your agreement. Mediation is now the referred way. Yeah, I've done it. Dispute resolution. Yeah. So that is also what I sort of I would want people. I think our culture was not very bad, but I think the way of bringing it up to the justice system, we should try some way of finding out what happens, what used to happen. Because in Britain, for instance, before this laws came, they used to have people trial by water. And if they if they accuse you of something and you have not done it, they would put you in the water, so that if you then you come up. Actually, people who are not guilty would come up. Yes, because of that belief. So sometimes by fire they would make you jump through the fire and doesn't hurt you. That those kind of things. Yes. We need to think, investigate our background, yes, and see what we can take from the things we can take, marry with the justice system. So that is what I really would like to find out, and I would like to see that done. But also, I forgot to tell you that I was the founder members of the Finance Trust Bank. Yes. Justice Caroline and I were we first made the first memorandum and articles of association for women. But we used to call women credit and savings. Justice Caroline and I, of course, we were not judges then. We were the one who started we made the memorandum and articles of association. Yes. Yeah, so what we wanted was for local women to open accounts. And first of all, we started it as with the Women's World Banking. We wanted to get Women's World Banking to guarantee the loans that women would get, low-income women. But we didn't get there. Because when we started this thing, the women then asked us, "Why can't we bank with you? Give you our money, you put it in the bank, so when we want, we can access it." So we started it that way. And then then it grew. It started going beyond the sort of what we expected. So then we started saying, okay, we will lend the money to women with a group. And it was so successful because the women would guarantee themselves, or they will give them the money, and then they decide how they are going to pay, to share it. If they want to share it or to give it to a few people, they do, and then they give back, and then they bring back the money. So we found it very, very successful. Then I think SNV got interested in us, and then they started helping us to build the capacity. And before long, we became actually very important part. And they had to come and see how we were doing it. But it then started investing the low-income women in savings and borrowing money and improving themselves financially. Of course, we had some men come to abuse us that were breaking families, but there were not many because it really helped. But if you will now go to Galeru, the Galeru branch, we are actually using our former client's premises, and we gave her first on 150, and she went and did business with it, and she's now our landlady.
Yes. Wow.
And you see a woman graduating from selling tomatoes and whatnot to selling bigger things, foods and whatnot, and then selling, having a shop of her own. It is very satisfying. Yeah. That's one of the things I'm very, very proud about.
Yes.
I feel privileged to have started being one of the people who founded it. Yeah.
And you were also a member of FIDA.
Yes, I am a member of
Yes.
Yes. In FIDA, I was a president twice. I was elected. But in the FIDA, people were, in that time, the FIDA was, we didn't have money. I don't think it was, somebody was interested in actually giving us money, but then we were very worried about how government was going to look at it. But we were on really for children and for women. And what I remember was that people liked going out very much at that time, just to go for conferences and all that. But really, when it took time for FIDA really to start taking, anyway, because it was a new thing, so probably it had to go. But it was good because now when you go find a way and say FIDA, people know. Yeah, because I remember when I was in the Gulu, we had gone there to do some FIDA work, and somebody just saw the car FIDA, written FIDA on, and it took off. I think he had the problem with his wife, and he was not paying the words, the upkeep for his wife. But now at least it is becoming respectable. Yeah, it is. It is now going. It got its feet and branches and all that. So I am also. That's one of the things that I feel that it was good for me to involve in. But then I found in the field that I couldn't really at that time. I didn't have the capacity to mentor women, to counsel them, because I when they told me their stories, I also got emotion. Yeah. One time I remember who was taking turns to talk to women, and I always came back with a headache, and my husband would say, why do you go if you can't control yourself?
Yes.
I would cry. But now, of course, it is different. Now I think I can counsel women without getting involved, so emotionally involved. But at that time, it was very difficult for me because the women were telling stories and we couldn't just believe that people can behave like that to others, But now I can take it.
And then also briefly about your participation in the women's situation room.
In the women's situation room, we get people who are non-partisan, and we don't know who supports whom. So the what we want is that it started from Liberia when they were having elections, and then the children, the youth were being used to cause chaos. So they were doing a runoff election, I think, during the time when this lady came in. Johnson Saya, when she came, Johnson Saya. She came in and then they were going to have a rerun of the election, and they saw the way the politicians were actually using the youth. So they went to the youth and they talked to them. And talked peace to them and how violence was not going to be helpful to them. And they also talked to the women that your sons are going to get into problems and you won't like it. Some will even die, some will go to prison. So the women then also, women are really peace-loving people. So the women also brought into it. So when the rerun of the election came, there was not one of them. Or if there was a problem. So in the women's situation room, we go and talk to the stakeholders. We talk to the electoral commission. And in the room, we have the electoral commission. Mostly they are not there because they are when it's a general election, they are very busy, but they are accessible to us. So in the room, you get the police is there, the army, and some other, then they used to talk to their fellow youth. So when things go wrong, like when the election delays, they call, instead of going violent, they call the women's situation room. Then the women's situation should say, is this youth or is this the electoral commission or is it the army or the police? Then they ring the person concerned. The people on the desk, even the police, they know who, and the area, they know who can be called in that area to see, tell them the problem. And when the problem is solved, then we call back to the person who has called and tell them that it has been solved. Yeah. So that way, we sort of cool down the situation before it escalates.
Yes. Wow. That's what it be. That's what you do. So now in this season of your life, you've been retired several years. Did you prepare for it? And if so, how did you prepare?
And the answer is yes. I was prepared for it.
Yes.
Yeah. But when I retired, then I had to go to Harare to work for the UNDP there as an expert. For the Constitutional Commission. For the Constitutional Commission as an advisor. So I stayed there for 7 months, and then I came back, and then I went to Southern Sudan. When they got their independence, I was there. That we were trying to see about. I did a analysis between for the women's situation in the Sudan, in the constitution, and then I did some. I contrasted it with some of the women's conventions and declarations and all that, and it was inadequate because my job was to consult the women in Southern Sudan and see whether they were satisfied with the provisions of the Constitution as it was. So that's why I brought in all these other women's declarations and conventions, and to see that whether because they would not know what the other people are thinking about. So I did a comparative study of the Constitution of the Sudan and the women's conventions, regionally and internationally. Yeah.
So, but when you say you have prepared yourself mentally, what do you mean?
Well, I mean, I accepted that I was going to retire, and then I didn't even know that I was going to go into those jobs. But I was prepared now to work I was at the same time the director in the board of the Uganda the Finance Trust Bank. Yeah. So I thought I was going to concentrate on Finance Trust Bank as a director, do some other things. But anyway, I did those two consultancies, yes. And then I came back, and I actually now concentrate also in the I think I mentor people, mainly young people. And one thing I was because I had some challenges when I got married. I had challenges with my marriage because there were people who wanted to disrupt it. So then I found out that by ignoring those people, because people would ring you and said, "Oh, I'm your husband. You can keep the ring, but I'm going to keep the man." So then I just told him, "So what do you want from me now?" I said, "Now, why do you call me here with my husband? I don't call you when I'm him." Yes. So then I decided, because I found out that there were some young women who were purposely doing that to disrupt people, new words. Yeah, so because I remember now why I did it. One time somebody was telling me she was with my husband when my husband was at home. So I said, okay, this is so some people ring me and tell me, what is your husband's number? Then I will tell them. I said, then I said, but who are you? You are so many. Are you Jen or Alice? So I said, there's so many of you. And, I would, me give them,
Make light of it.
Yeah. So I said, yeah, so you are so many of you. So which one are you? And how do we not have his number? So they would do, some of them would say, psst, and just love it. Yeah, of the telephone.
So now you mentor young people
Yeah, I mentor young people married in their marriages, and I tell them that you stay there unless the man is mistreating you. But if it is at other people, because even sometime when we were at lunch, somebody called my husband. That day there was no these telephones. Calls my husband, and we were at home having lunch, and tells him that I was having lunch somewhere with a man. So my husband said, "Oh, thank you for your information." Then he came back laughing. So I said, "What are you laughing about?" He said, "Oh, you are supposed to be somewhere with a man." So people, want to break your marriage because they're jealous of you. Because most of it, we were always together. So people really didn't take it well. Yeah. So even married women would get jealous of you because your husband is caring for you. Yes. So I learned that. So then I learned how to deal with them. Yeah. Because some women call me and they said, "Oh, this woman even calls me and tells me this." I say, "No, this is how do you act." Yes, yes. Wow. Yeah. And I will not even bother tell my husband. So it's all right. Yeah, no, yes. Yeah. So if it is true that they're having relations with my husband, they have nothing to report about no more. Yeah.
So you prepared mentally. You now mentor young people as they in their marriages. And again, if you were to or what I hear from your statement then is we need to it's in the head, us prepare for it mentally. Yeah.
You know that you are going to retire, and so what are you going to do when you are tiring? And for me, when my husband was still working in the what, I was the chairperson of also his company, Dama Consultants. But now he has retired from it, and then also somebody went maliciously and removed all the information from our computers. So there were not people even making inquiries, and so they would say that it has just come home and step. Yeah. So now I'm mostly babysitting my grandchild.
Yes. Which is also a gift.
Yes.
It is also a beautiful.
And it's such a pleasure because you have time for them.
Yeah.
I did not have time for my children because that time I was really busy going out of the country, coming back, what. Because I remember one time I was coming from, I think, some conference. And then I told my children that I'm going back next week to some place. Then they say, again? Yeah, the chorus, again? Oh dear. So, so I didn't really have time for them as many time because it was the busiest time of my 5
years of your career. Wow. And as we end the podcast, and thank you so much for telling us your story. What do you want to be remembered for?
What I said was that people will remember you different.
Of course, yes.
But I would like to be remembered for fighting for women's cause. Because when we were in the Constitutional Commission, good enough, there were men who were brought up by their mothers, by their fathers. So they helped us to craft, to bring all these other international conventions to the Constitution. And I think that help at least the human rights aspect of the Constitution. And at least if you see Article 45, it says that whatever is said in the Constitution is not, it was not the end of it, but they can also consult other international conventions which were not in the Constitution. And that is omnibus.
Yes.
So it helps us to also get from outside a constitution, other decisions which have been made from other countries. But it is what the chapter 4 of the Constitution really was good, although it may not be practiced. But now I see just women really going to any courses they want to go to. In our time, it was very difficult.
Yes, very difficult. Wow.
Yeah, that's why even people went to my father to try to dissuade him from allowing me to go for law. Yeah. But now, when I see girls just...
I know, we put it without even thinking about it. Wow, yeah.
And also now at least marriage laws, being women, enlightened women, unfortunately, still in the rural areas, it is not so. Women still really... I was in Karamoja one time. So this woman was saying, and there is a lot of domestic violence in Karamoja. So when we talked about it, then I said, but if your husband beats you, and why don't you go to the police? Then a woman put up her hand and then say, now, if the man is arrested, you go back to the Manyata, to the people, to his people. Where do you start? So I realized that, even if these women were economically empowered, they could find a place. Yes. So now economic empowerment is very important to women. Yeah. And that is why I am glad I'm one of the people who was founded the Women's Finance Trust. Because when a woman can control their own money, at least they can they can have a way out of marriage. Some people are staying in the marriage because they have nowhere to go. Your parents are dead and you can't go home. And where do you go when you start from home? With your brother's home? Yeah,
It's very difficult.
Yeah.
Do you remember what you were doing this year on Women's Day? I don't know if you remember.
I went to this day. I went to talk to women in me. You see Nakasero, Nakawa, I think it's Nakawa.
Nakawa. And the reason I ask that, and I want to end with this, is I called you that day. I believe I was going to ask you whether I could interview you for Footprints. And the picture that stayed in my head, because you answered it, but I think you were, not to talk to me, but to alert me that you were busy. And I remember you talking about will making. So the picture in my mind that stayed for me was Mary is still at it. She's still teaching people their rights. Maybe until your dying day, who knows? But that is, for me, if you ask what will I remember Mary for, from the time she was a lawyer up to the time God took her last breath, she was still teaching people their rights. She was still enlightening people about a different way to live, a different, how to access their rights and all. And we thank you for that journey. We thank you for that sacrifice. We thank you for that energy. We may not see all of it. We have not lived all of the days of your 81 years, but thank you for the mark that you have left in our lives, in the lives of the women and men that you have touched. And we are blessed to have known you, to have had you amongst us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mary.
Yeah. And one thing I remember about mentoring, there was somebody who told another person, a boy, a young man, he says, if it was not because of Mrs. Matum, my wife and I would have divorced. So then the person came and told me, and I don't remember what I did to him.
Yes.
To save his money.
Yes. Wow, no. So you've impacted so many lives, and some will be able to tell you and some will never tell you, but they are there as your seeds, as your trees, as your oaks. So thank you very much.